Hello everyone. Welcome to our second or third webinar of our Project Wordless 2025 music webinar series. Just as an introduction, my name is Lillian and I'm the director of Project Wordless. We are a nonprofit initiative that seeks to encourage self-expression through different arts mediums. And in today's webinar, we'll be hearing from our amazing guest speaker, Carlos Herrand Poe, about building a healthy mindset in a world of music. Thank you so much, Carlos, for being here with us today. Can we get started with a quick introduction?
Oh, absolutely. And also, thank you for pronouncing my name so correctly. I know it can be hard sometimes. So, what can I say about me? I'll start by saying I was born in the Dominican Republic. I started my music path a little late when I was 15 years old. Um, and then, I was like, oh, I wanna keep pursuing this. And then when I was home, I got into I got into the conservatory over there, and they prepared me for about 4 or 5 years, and so I can take the next step into coming to Berkeley. And so I did. I came to Berkeley 2015. Um, very focused on as a performer, and um, and then later in my career, I also found um, passion as a teacher, and I got these amazing opportunities um, throughout the years, and I was able to develop that side of my career as well. Um, and I consider also myself now a teaching artist, aside from a performer, and also a composer. Um, I work, all throughout the Northeast area, but I would say that my teaching artistry happens mostly in the Boston area, and I work extensively um, in the Boston community providing arts education. And as a performer, it goes a little more broad. Um, um, I travel here in the Northeast to different spots like Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, New York. Um, and because of the network that I made during my Berkeley years, I was able to make a great international network, and sometimes I'm able also to travel internationally and play. I played uh, in Mexico a few times, um, and other parts. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of
So,
course.
today we're sort of talking about different aspects of whether it be the music industry or um, just sort of the mindset and culture that we have in the music world that
Yeah.
could be toxic or difficult for musicians to navigate. So, I would love to hear a little bit about some specific aspects of the music environment that you might find to be particularly toxic.
Um, I'm gonna start by saying I think I guess it depends on how you start, but I'm gonna use my own example. I started as a performer, um, and things have evolved and developed. But the way I started as a performer, um, we we performers tend to compare a lot to each other, and I'm gonna start just there. That being really toxic. Um, there's this feeling of comparison with yourself, but also comparison with other, like, oh, saying things like, oh, I can do better than that to yourself, or just going to a concert or going to a recital or going to a jam session and sitting on the other side of the bandstand and how we say it, being jive, you know, you're just there being jive, like being judgmental. And those can be very toxic characteristic of the performance area. Um, and I will say that, first and foremost, you're a human being, so you should be kind to yourself and to others. And so if we can, if in if it in your process of um, becoming a musician, whatever that means to you, you can eliminate, or not eliminate, but because it's naturally part of us, that ego trying to compare to others to yourself. But if you can work your way to um, just letting it go. You have that thought, you let it go. Don't dwell too much on it, but just try to be open-minded and enjoy what you're listening. Even if it's you, even if you're recording yourself. Like I do that, yeah, I do that a lot of time, even if it's only for like sessions, not necessarily concert, but I would record sessions when I'm playing. And when I listen back to it, I try to listen from a, you know, from a objective perspective. So I'm trying to listen with no judgment and enjoying it. And I feel like if you if you if you come from that perspective, that will help you a lot in um reducing the toxicity. I'm not saying it's going to eliminate it because we can only do as much, but I feel like that could be a great start.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you're sort of talking about how there's both of these aspects of comparing yourself to yourself versus comparing yourself to others. And I'm sort of wondering, um, there's this kind of fine line between, you know, pushing yourself as a musician to grow and improve your skills versus to the point where it does become toxic. How would you sort of make sure that that distinction is clear and that it's a healthier way versus getting to that toxic
Yeah,
area?
yeah. Um, I mean, I'll speak from my perspective, you know. Um, um, I'll start by saying that the way I know myself, if I know I'm on the drum, my main instrument is the drums, by the way, for those who don't know. I think that this is the first time I mentioned that. If I'm on the drums and I'm on a practice space, um, I want to make sure that I go into the space knowing what I'm doing, you know? Um, and those are really healthy guidelines to keep it non-toxic to yourself. All right. If you go to the space of practicing, not knowing what you're going to do, that can translate to frustration because you might feel like you're wasting time. So I would say, um, as a musician, when you try to get better, and this is I'm only speaking for the performance side. There's so many sides to what a musician can do, but going into the space, knowing what you want to achieve, I think that's very healthy. And also, that's all that's to the practice session, but that's totally different when you are on a performance space. When you're performing, you it's the opposite. You go in there with no um rules of what you're going to do. actually at that moment you have to let go and listen and and hope for whatever you've been working on um, can transmit through you and become musical. But that's, that's another thing. You're a vessel for the art, right? It's never about you. It's about the message you're trying to transmit, right? Through this art. Like it's like when you go to a museum, you know, and you see these awesome paintings. You're trying to see you're trying to absorb the message of the artist. Same thing with a building. If and recently I went to Barcelona and I saw this amazing architecture from, I think, Gaudí, that's his name. And it's just unbelievable, So, and that's because at the moment he was doing those, he let go of everything and just he was one with art. So that's what, that I'm talking about expectation in different spaces, performance space, practice space, recording space. We can also talk about that, but also that's a little different. Teaching space, um, so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's really, really amazing. Yeah, so I think one of the things that can sort of be a result of constant comparison is what we call imposter syndrome. And I think that's a really big thing in music. And I think generally it's known as like sort of feeling like you don't really belong in whatever space that is. In this case, it's music. You
Mm,
don't really belong with those around you, and maybe feeling like a fraud in some cases, or like not being at the same level as other musicians. So,
mm,
could you kind of speak a little bit on maybe any experiences that you had with that kind of
yeah,
feeling and how you faced it? And
yeah.
you might advise for someone, another musician, on how to deal with it.
Wow, yeah. I mean, it's really sad if you're feeling that. If anybody's feeling that way, that's not good. First of all, I'm just gonna say that. Um, and I think, I mean, I've been blessed enough to have great mentors and peers and colleagues. So I would say that most times I felt I belonged where I was. But I think that also comes from, I think I felt that way because that comes from my um my acknowledgement of self-worth. Um, I I hold great value in myself, right? And so if I'm confident and I go into a room, um, even before even before I know what's going on in the room, I'm going to feel good with myself because I have that self-worth. My standard for self-worth is really high. So, um, and the good thing about that is that, and maybe you have felt this, um, hopefully you have felt this. The good thing about that is that when someone that has high self-worth comes into the room, that energy can be contagious. So, um, of course, if you have that open mindedness, because if it comes from, oh, I want to be like that, why is he like that? I'm not like that. Coming from that comparison perspective instead of positive influence, um, then it can be tricky. But um, if you go into a room, or if you feel if you feel your self-worth is really high, you're also infecting people with that feeling and helping them in realizing that whatever they are, they belong, right? Um, and if you really feel if indeed you don't belong there, I mean, just don't be afraid and step out. There's not one room, there's thousands of different rooms that you can step in and that will help you and also feel you belong, right? But knowing that first and foremost, it's a sense of feeling at home where you are, having high regard for yourself. I would say that.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I, whenever this topic has kind of come up in conversation for me, um, I've never really heard that kind of perspective of thinking about it in the sense of you're bringing positive energy into the environment as well and
Yeah.
focus on that aspect. Because I think you're totally right. Like, whether it be with your mentors or your peers, in like stand partners in orchestra, whoever it may be, it there's a huge impact of the environment around you on your mindset. So,
Hmm.
thing to that,
And I would
with
I would add two things. If you're in a space and if you feel somebody um feeling they don't belong there, I would say um approach that person and try to uplift that person. All right? Because you are in that same space together. So um and this is part of the community work we do. You want to other people that are around you feel better. And the second thing that I'm going to add is, I mean, especially for you or for anybody that's starting music school, that's the reason why you're in music school. You are allowed to make mistakes. Um, in fact, you should make many mistakes because school provides you with a safe space, right? For you to make mistakes and have that learning process of, oh, you know what? I'm going to approach it from a different way. Or you know what? I'm going to actually take a different path. You know?
yeah, absolutely. Really great pieces of advice there. Yeah, thank you. Um, so I'm sort of shifting here, but what strategies or practices do you think have helped you personally to stay motivated as a musician, especially in periods of burnout or doubt, or sort of like if you have ever felt stuck as a
Mm,
musician? What kind of things have helped you to keep going?
yeah, that's a great question. Um, I would say you have to stay, um, as musicians, we're artists, and something innate in artists, whether whatever art that is the feeling of curiosity. So I feel like if you develop that feeling of being curious, um, I feel like being curious is the cure for boredom, right? So, so um, by being that way, you'll find things to get you out of stuckness. In my personal experience, um, I do a lot. Musically, I play the drums, I play the guitar, I write, I try to produce, and I like theory a lot. So if I'm bored here, I'll stop and go here. If I'm bored here, I'll stop and go here, and so on and so forth. So um, I would say if you feel stuck or or just bored, just step out. And even if it doesn't have to be something musical, you can get inspired from going to a road trip with friends, going to a marketplace, going to a I was this morning I was with CMCV with the company that I work. I'm wearing my shirt right here. So we were doing we were doing an open street community event um in the Roxbury area, and just being there, being influenced by so much energy and so much other vendors. Um, that was really inspiring. So even stepping out of music and just doing other stuff, it can be pretty inspiring. Going for a swim, going to the mountain. If you like sports, play some sports. As I said just before this, I went for a run, so to clear my mind, and that really helps. So you can find inspiration from um, lots of different sources. And if you're also like me, like you're just passionate about music, you'll find so many things that are related to music that you can just boop, 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 to never be bored.
Yeah, thank you. And sort of like in tangent with that, um, a huge thing that can come with a musician's life, like hours of practice or creativity,
Mm,
is burnout as a result. If we're, constantly going at it without breaks, and even sometimes with breaks, it can still lead to a point of like really
yeah.
feeling exhausted from it. Um, so for you, would you say there's any kind of ways or experiences where you were able to find a way out of that, and like sort of maybe talk us through how you got there?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Um, I have, and this I speak for myself. I think this one will be short because I have a really strong rule that I apply on myself. Um, and it's it's three things. I need rest, I need good food, and I need movement. I have to, I have to in a day get those three. And those three every day in the long run, they don't allow me to feel burnout because I'm eating healthy. I'm resting for at least 7 hours if you can afford that. And I'm activating my body with some kind of movement, whatever that means to you. So in my life, I've never felt a burnout because of that, because I always have clarity on how to take care of myself. And I feel that's just big part of um, don't feel the burnout, just taking care of yourself first, right? Because you are your first priority. You live in your body, and that's it. If you don't live anywhere else. You live in your body, so you have to take care of it. And for me, that means rest, food, and movement.
Yeah, it's a very good, like very simple, but very important to live by for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so aside, I mean, and you've already mentioned quite a few like very healthy habits to have implemented into your life as a musician. Um, is there anything else, any tips or advice or healthy habits that you might um, recommend for musicians out there continually to help build healthier mindset, healthier lifestyle, and habits?
Yeah. I would say also like allow yourself to enjoy time off. My God, I mean, as a musician, we feel like if we don't practice for 2 months, we lost it, and that's not true. You know, it's there. It's just muscle memories. If you play the piano, it's gonna be there. I play the drums. If I'm off the instrument I'm never off the instrument honestly for 2 months. That has never happened. But sometimes, let's say I'm on 2 week vacation and I don't play the drums, you know. I'm not on the vacation thinking like, shit, I have to go back to the drums. Like you're no, just enjoy it. You've been practicing every day or this long. The fact that you go away for a couple of weeks don't mean you're not gonna have it once you're back. You are definitely going to have it. So just allow yourself to have time off and knowing that you have earned that, you know? It's musicians, we are so hard on ourselves, like let's see. Um, right, like if I say that I think that maybe 2 weeks ago, 4th of July, I went away for 3 nights. And before I went away, in my mind, I was like, okay, I'm going to bring my practice pad just to spend like 30 minutes, whatever. The day comes, I forget the practice pad, you know. So I'm there for 3 nights, 4 days, 3 nights. I forget the practice pad. I'm like, oh, that's fine, just enjoy it. You'll get back to the drums. You've been playing the drums for so many years. It'll be there, don't worry. So I think that would be a healthy habit as well for us musicians. Whatever time you put into it, take time off. It doesn't matter. You know, it's, I promise you, it will still be there.
Yeah, I really like the idea of like when you're actually there practicing, dedicating your full mind to that, but also dedicating your full mind to getting the rest that you
Yeah.
need in order to recover.
And
That's
I'm also going to add, um, like if you're in the practice session and be mindful of how much time do you want to spend practicing something. All right. So let's say you're practicing three different things. Be really disciplined in how much time you're gonna dedicate to each thing. Because if you go overboard or under, that can lead to self-frustration because, oh my God, I didn't spend enough time on this, or I didn't spend enough time on that. So just make sure that you go in the space. And I think I mentioned it before, knowing what you're going to do, but also how much time you're going to do that for. So, if I'm busy. So if I mostly have, let's say, like 50 minutes at this point to practice in the morning. If I have those 50 minutes, whatever I'm practicing, I have to divide it in those 50 minutes. So just go in the space, knowing what you're going to do and for how long you're going to do it.
yeah, I totally agree. I think another thing that is a big part of um, sort of like the culture around practicing is like sometimes there's like if you only practice for a certain number of hours in comparison to someone else that practiced for like 6 to 8 hours, that kind of um, culture intense, like as if there's a certain number of
Yeah.
hours that you have to meet. But in reality, if as long as you are, taking steps forward
Yeah.
in and setting goals and knowing exactly what you're going into the practice session wanting to do, and like you said, disciplining and setting a time for it so that you
Hmm.
feel like you're actually fulfilling the goals that you're setting. I think
Yes.
that's really all that you need for a day of practice. It's not
Yeah.
a certain set number of hours or anything like that.
Yeah. I'm also going to add that um I have I've never been a big practicer. That's something that I have taught myself how to practice, and that's something you should teach yourself because nobody teaches you how to practice. You learn how to practice things. And so I'm saying this because um, I've never in my life, and I'm being very honest, sat down on the drums for more than 5 hours. Never, ever. I've never had a practice session that goes over 2.5 hours. Whenever I sit on the drums, I practice when I had a lot of time, I would practice for maybe 2.5 hours tops. Sometimes that's it. I see. It's about being really mindful what you're going to practice, right? And also the learning experience from for you and the learning experience for me is very different. What might take you 20 minutes might take me 5 hours, you know. If you're done in 20 minutes, you're done in 20 minutes. No need to go 5 hours, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let me just see here. Oh, so this is very common thing for anyone to face, but definitely musicians as well. So, is there any advice that you could give to musicians who struggle with performance anxiety?
Wow. Yes. Uh, that's a hard one, honestly. I would say just and I think this only applies if you're a performer, because if you're not a performer, then it doesn't really matter. You're not really going to be in that you won't have that experience. And when you have it, it's not gonna really matter because you're not a performer. Um, but if you are trying to pursue performance and you have uh anxiety, I would say just take the risk. Keep taking the risk. Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Put yourself in that situation because at some point it will feel comfortable. At some point it'll feel comfortable. And also it's just music, it's not rocket science. And so nobody's going to die or anything if you messed up a note, right? Coming to it from a even so comic perspective can really help. It's only music. It's okay. You're not doing brain surgery, all right? And I would say another thing that I would add is just if you experience anxiety, um, something that can help, it might be meditation as well. Meditation can open doors to you to um, not get rid of, but work through the anxiety so that you can transform that energy into something else.
Mm, yeah. Is there anything that you do, like if you ever, before you go on stage and play for an audience, is there anything that you sort of do to calm any kinds of nerves down or to really
Yeah,
like get yourself in the right spot that you need to be?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, it depends because um, not all of the performance spaces have the same qualities or the same characteristics prior to the performance. But I would say something that helps is just doing activities with um, all the people that are performing with you. If it's a band, you crack a joke, just lighten up the mood with conversations, activities that you can do instead of being like, oh, we have to be so serious, we're gonna perform, but just, um, um, and then if you're in a space where, you know, there's no really a what we call the green room, that waiting area until performance time, just go out of the space, even with the band, take a walk, go grab a coffee. You have to be on time too, because if you're starting off with with the wrong foot, being late, you're at that point you're inflicting that anxiety to yourself. So get there on time. Um, take a walk with the bands, have a conversation, and then it's going to feel a little lighter once you go to the performance. And I've been performing for a long time, and uh, I would say that at first, um, I got nervous, but um, when you start seeing it from a, even as I said, comic, or like, oh, we're just playing music, whatever. That can really, I feel like um that perspective can really help in making you feel lighter. But
Mm-hmm.
do not undermine the value of the power of music, because through music you can really affect whoever is there. So, and they can tell if you're um being silly about it, you know. So I would say you take your craft seriously, you practice, you work for it. But then when it's time to hit, just ah, it's just music. But the work has been done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, so sort of going more on the topic of like self-worth in relation to music. I think a lot of times in the music world, it's like a lot of people are very seen for their achievements and um, like maybe you won a lot of competitions, you won a lot of um, prizes, or it's a lot of it is built on that kind of perspective.
Yeah.
So it's really important to develop a strong sense of identity outside of music and um, to really separate your identity from your achievements and your failures. So, what advice can you give on sort of that topic?
I would say, um, I would say if you're into that, if you're into competitions and prizes, then that's fine. You will get them for sure. I'm not into that. I'm more into the music for the arts and what music can do versus the, how do you call it? Because I feel like, prizes and stuff is just to inflate the ego. Look at me, how much I'm worth. But worth doesn't come from outside. It comes from the value that you have for yourself. But if you're into that, that's cool. And I promise you, you'll do competitions, you'll win some, you'll lose some. Just like, you can expect to win all of them. And you'll get your prizes and good. If you do that, I promise you I'll be happy for you because that's what you want. But um, as I said, I'm not in the business of music to how do you say it, to self grant myself. I want to I want to when I play, I want to transmit what I'm trying to say. And if I do my work well, um, I know in the long run, recognition will come. But I'm not looking for the recognition. I'm just doing you're there and you're doing your work, right? It's never about yourself. If you think it's about you, you're already lost.
Mm, yeah, very important. Just sort of a final question to wrap up. Have you ever experienced the feeling of wanting to quit or um, kind of really struggling with the idea of like if it's the right path for
Yeah,
you? And
yeah.
if so, um, what pulled you through that moment, and how, if it was, ever about success, how have the how has the definition for success changed over time for you?
Yeah. I would say that um, the music business is not easy. Um, and to make a living of it is not easy either. So some of the things that in my experience have made me consider, pop up the thought of, you know what? What about if I try this other stuff? Hasn't been from from music itself. It's it's been influenced by um, maybe financial struggles when you start a career. Because as I said, navigating the music business can be complicated. Um, but I would say that um, um, if you have a good network and a good community, you can definitely, absolutely uh, make a living out of the music business. But when when I had those thoughts, I never ever consider changing paths um, because I know music it's um, innate in me. So I would never be detached from music, even if I'm doing um, I don't know, finance. I'm working a 9 to 5. Knowing myself, I'll probably once I get home at 6 p.m., I'll probably grab a guitar, because music is just part of me. So, um, as I said, those thoughts came from a financial aspect, not so much from a musical aspect. But know that um, most people that we think feel that way, not only from the music um, business, but from other things as well. I've had conversations with researchers, mathematicians, um, even lawyers. And are like, I'm just fresh out of college and I'm struggling. My God, I'm struggling. And it just takes time. It takes time um, finding your own way. Um, but I tell you this, when you're able to when you're able to um, I'm looking for a word. When you're able to supply yourself, you know, that's a great feeling because you're doing it through something that you're passionate about, right? And it makes you do more and be better, and that brings more opportunities. So it's kind of like an exponential thing. Once you take that first step, it's gonna take you to the next step, next step, and next step. That's how it is at first. It's really like exponential. It can be like, oh wow, I'm fresh out of college. But then, but then you take a step, boom, 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 boom. And then, you kind of like, then you start making more informed decisions like, oh, I'll stay here. It's kind of like stabilizes more.
Mm.
But I mean, you have to, as I said before, you have to be brave and take that risk because that risk will put you in a position of learning experience, and it'll bring more stuff, and then you will be able to support yourself. I promise that.
So to you, it's both about having a lot of patience for yourself and for the process, and also taking risks and taking things steps at a time.
Yeah. 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 You are your accumulation of experiences, you know. Every experience makes you who you are. So you have to put yourself in the position of um getting experience.
Mm, definitely.
If you're lucky enough, if you're like one in a million where experiences are given to you, that you don't seek the experiences, but they're just given to you, then I'm so happy for you. Great. But most um, most of us won't have that um, you know, path.
Mm, yeah. I think it's like, I think I saw somewhere it's like in order to get more opportunities for yourself, you have to make the possibility of getting those opportunities more
Yeah,
likely. So
yeah,
it's really about like you going out there, taking the risks and seeking out those opportunities for
yeah,
yourself.
yeah. Like when you know, when I was at Berkeley, you know, um, I would go to there's this jazz bar close to Berkeley called Wiley's, and they would play music from 5 p.m. to close, which was midnight. And Monday through Monday, they would have sessions, like open sessions for musicians to sit down. So me getting myself there is an example of, you know, taking, you know, creating opportunities for myself because you're there, you're knowing people, you're playing, you're connecting with people. Um, so yeah, don't be afraid of taking risk. Same with music when you're playing, you know, that's just personal, but same with music. If you're playing the piano or the violin or the drums or whatever, don't be afraid of taking risk. Just and you, I promise you, you won't be afraid if you're really present. That's the thing.
Mhm.
Like if you're in the moment playing, it'll just automatically do it. Like you won't even feel that you're taking risk because it'll just happen, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, thank you so much. I think that will conclude our webinar for today. But first, I'd of course like to thank our amazing speaker of the night, Carlos, for sharing all this really important insight into navigating a lot of these very nuanced and difficult aspects of our mindset in music and a lot of the internal struggles that musicians face.
Mm,
So thank you so much for sharing that with us. And thank you to anyone who's watching either live or our recording. To our audience, this is our final webinar of three, but we do have our other recordings posted on our channel. And Carlos was in our second one as well. So be sure to check those out if you weren't able to make it live. And thank you all so much again, and have